Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Ronnar, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that perfect lead. 1.5 seconds. PRS.
Well, it was a typical Austrian Grand Prix. It was basically what we expect when we watch a virtual race. Hello everybody and welcome back to PSGL. Austria was absolutely fantastic last time out. We're racing at Canada today. We'll get into that later on. But firstly, let's look at the best bits of the 36 lap action that we had at the Red Bull Ring. 5 red lights. And PSGL is racing in Austria. Perfect getaway by Emil Lundell. He holds the lead. Thomas Konkenny trying to come up on the inside and trying to take the race lead, but he is going to be in second. It is going to be Alan Banasak in third. Felipe Souza battling with Jane Tripkov as we make our way down towards turn number 3 for the first time. The two Hasses side by side of Luca Wolster and also Daniel Gottschalk as we hit the anchors, and there's a move being attempted in the background. That's Nardi Perez, who was going very deep to the inside to try and make a dive bomb, but Emil Lundell holds the lead. Jane Tripkov is going to have an opportunity to get past Felipe Souza as we go down to turn number 4. Opportunity possibly for Thomas Konkenny to try to take the lead. The two Red Bulls are also very, very close as well, and we're on board with a man currently in P3 looking for second position. Emil Lundell, though, with the start that he wanted, he has the lead.
And also a few drivers with 2 places gained. Kuba Tresiak, P18, but more notably perhaps Daniel Gottschalk, now currently in P5 as Alan Banasek gets past Thomas Konkenny in turn 6.
Big slide for Thomas Konkenny. That is the reason why Felipe Souza was able to move up to third position.
Might be Felipe 3-man wide. There's contact between the Red Bull drivers. I hope for Felipe there's no damage to his car, but there definitely was some contact there, and I think Emil Lundell is now going to make his way back around to Alan Banasek. But is he going to stay behind? Is he going to try and push past? He's actually going to stay behind. So he will want to save a little bit of ERS now. Still has a lot of ERS at his disposal.
3 wide for the lead, and Felipe Souza trying to make a double overtake. 3 into turn number 3. Not for too long though, because latest on the brakes is Felipe Souza, who makes the move and takes the lead. Red Bulls getting very close together, and Emil Lundell is into the back of Thomas Konkenny, and 4th and 3rd make contact, and they throw each other out of the equation. Emil Lundell, though, still right now in P5. For Alan, is he going to come alongside and make the move into turn number 4? Once again, the two Red Bulls side by side. Luca Wolster very late on the brakes, almost getting involved. He might get involved. Look at that traction Luca Wolster has got. He's up alongside Alan Banasak. Is he going to risk one to the inside of turn number 6? Wheel to wheel we go. Luca Wolster gets himself ahead. Great move by the Haas driver, who fights his way through and moves up to second.
But again, down the inside, braking comes in from Alan Banasak. But this could be the moment for Yoda Martins. We can take both people from the inside. Yoda Martins goes from 4th to 2nd. That's amazing.
Ferrari driver is going to pull out of the slipstream. He'll pull alongside, and Jona Martins will take the race lead here in Austria, and he gets past the man who he battled with for the victory. In round 1, now he's battling in round 4.
But he's lost so many positions during the pit stop sequence. It's going to be very, very tough for him to do, as we see Tristan Debecourt have a little bit of fight with Jane Tripkov. And it looks like, Thomas Konkenny just staying ahead of it around the outside. But so much happening here. Alan Banasek now on the inside. Jane Tripkov. Can he hang on to the position? He does. He gets past Jane Tripkov through turn 7 and 8. That is not an easy spot to go for the overtake. And immediately Sasha Neves is having a look around the outside, but is not going to make that move fly through in turn 9. But Alan has made out one position so far, but still has a mountain to climb.
He does. That is unfortunate for Alan Banasak. He's going to leave his teammate fighting with Keanu Leitard. Jona Martins is going to be in there as well. We could be about to go 3 wide once again here in the Austrian Grand Prix. Jona Martins switches to the inside. Keanu Leitard's been mugged, and Felipe Souza has the lead. Jona Martins is now in second, and Keanu Leitard will be getting mugged by more drivers as well. Here comes Luca Wolstow trying to get get his way up to third position on the rostrum right now at the moment. He's almost going to be overtaking Jonas Martins with how late Luca Wolster was on the brakes. They're still side by side, so he still has Keanu Littard for company as we go down to turn number 6. Who is going to give an inch? Neither of them, it seems like. Keanu Littard is going to run Luca Wolster out of road. He's going to hold the position as Keanu Littard is fighting for it right now, and he has absolutely every single right to do so. Jonas Martins is going to pull out a move. It will be for sit on the brakes for the lead. Possibly no, he's going to sit in second, but look at the traction he's got compared to Jonas Martins. Down the straight we go. Jonas Martins is in the lead, but he's having to defend it. Emil Lundell is going to make his way through and will take the lead on the circuit. Jonas Martins will not fight that one.
Not the race Alan was looking for. He was fighting so much for the race lead, and the pit stop was a little bit later. Dropped down the order quite a bit. Not sure if anything else was involved.
There's no waiting around. If you're battling for positions like this, contact ahead is Kryzix. And Kryzix now is going to try to get past Zach Miles, who made contact with Julian. And Tristan Debecourt's going to be to the side as well. 3 wide possibly. No good camera angle by the EA game to show us it though. And Kryzix is going to be ahead of Zach Miles, who will be shoved off there. And Tristan Debecourt is going to take the opportunity. Nearly contact between the two of them. And they're banging wheels. It's about starting to get aggressive for these positions. As we see Zach Miles throw a nose in there. Could be anyone, but right now Felipe Salza trying to make a move. Possible penalty lying over Emil Lundell, as Myth reminds us of. But right now it could be anyone to play for. We're going 3 wide. Here we are on the penultimate lap of the race. Cars all over the road. Felipe Salza late on the brakes to the inside. Here comes Luca Wolster as well. Wheel to wheel we go. Fantastic racing here on the penultimate lap. We're 3 wide for the lead with Felipe Salza on the inside. Surely someone's got to give an inch. We're still 3 wide and off goes Luca Wolster. Here comes Keanu Littard as well. And Felipe Salza has P1, but we expected it to turn into fireworks. It has turned into fireworks. And Felipe Salza is P1 right now on the road. Jonas Martins is in second. Emil Lundell in third. Luca Wolster is in P4. And it's going to be 9 cars all battling for it as we make our way onto lap number 36. We're on the final tour. It's the 36th lap of the race. And we're making our way through turn number 1. We've got 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles to decide the winner in round 4 in Austria. And we've got Jonas Martins giving chase. We're all chasing behind as well. And here comes Jonas Martins looking for the move on Felipe Salza. Late on the brakes. Battle for third. Battle for the lead. And Jonas Martins gets his way through. He takes P1 on the road, and Felipe Salza makes contact with Luca Wolster, who's trying to get his way through as well. And Luca Wolster is up to second. Can he take the lead on at the end? Luca Wolster looking for it at the end, but it seems like Jonas Martins is gonna hang on. But Luca Wolster is still there. He's still challenging as Felipe Salza has dropped down to P5. But this has been absolutely fantastic by every single one of these drivers, and it's going to be the man who took victory in the opening round of the season who will take victory here in Austria. Jonas Martins has driven absolutely brilliantly, but Luca also trying to take it away. This is the penultimate corner, and now we're to the last corner on the last lap, and Jonas Martins is going to just about hang on unless Luca Wolster makes it a drag race to the line, which he does. But Jonas Martins hangs on to take the victory right at the end. Wow, that was absolutely incredible stuff at Austria. But we now have arrived at Canada for another exciting race, I am sure. In the commentary box, my name is Omi, and joining me once again, as usual for this one, it's of course Mr. Mitt Sky. Hi Mitt, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I hope you're doing great yourself as well, because we've got quite a nice race coming up ahead. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal, Canada. It's not a track that you often see on the PSGL calendar either. At least I haven't seen it here before. So my first time visit there, doing the hot lap there, was pretty fun as well, which we'll see it later on. And yeah, the track just proves so many cool things. And I mean, there's one corner really to talk about, isn't there, Omi? And that's the Wall of Champions.
Yep, absolutely, definitely one of those incredible corners where the drivers do push to the limit and you can gain plenty of time. Now, we've completed the first 4 rounds. We are at round 5. Next week we'll head to France, and then we'll go to Portugal. 2 circuits back to back, which aren't on the real life calendar anymore, and then we'll head to the chaotic Azerbaijan. That's going to be some excitement surely as well. Then Netherlands, that's also going to be thrilling. So will Brazil after that, and we will end the season at Austin, Texas. So cannot wait for all of that to come. But quickly to go through everything that's happened so far. You've got Felipe Salza, still your championship leader. However, his gap was cut down a tiny bit after Jona Martins was able to take his second victory last time out as well. It was an absolute fantastic last lap, as you would have just seen last 2 laps, and a fantastic race in general. Luca Walsto has only stood on the podium once, but he's been consistent. 6th, 5th, and then 6th and 2nd he's been able to get this season, so that's why he is in 3rd. And then you have Kuba, who is in P4, Thomas Conkenny in P5. So definitely being consistent is definitely going to be key. But I think Felipe Salza, who we may have seen dominate quite a bit this season, but Jona Martins has been doing really, really well to try to keep with him and also beat him in 2 of the races.
Yeah, Jona has been really one of the main competitors for Felipe so far. I mean, the first race he won, of course, after a great fight with Felipe. It was just that he had that DNF in Belgium that really set him back. But aside from that, he's been stellar this season. I think also Luke Walstall, and we saw a glimpse of Emil Lundell last race. I mean, he's currently 10th in the championship, but he did finish on the podium last race round. So those are the drivers I kind of expect to see more up there. But it will be very, very tough to contest Felipe. Although if there's one person who can do it, I think it's Jona.
Definitely is as well. We'll quickly go on to the constructors standings. You have Red Bull at the front of the field, an 11-point gap to Ferrari, and then you have Haas in 3rd, Alpine in 4th, McLaren in 5th, Mercedes in 6th, Aston Martin, AlphaTauri, Williams, and Alfa Romeo. Now, of course, the main thing is the Drivers' Championship, but the constructors also, I'm sure everyone wouldn't mind winning at all. And remember, for most of these drivers, they would have picked their teammates, so they would have been with people that they work with well or are in calls with, so they're definitely going to be trying to also do well in the Constructors' Championship. And it's Ferrari versus Red Bull at the front, so we'll also keep you updated on that as well. But Noel Coleman was able to get a good result last time out after not starting or finishing in the previous 3 races, the round 1 to round 3, but he was able to finish in round 4, and we'll see how he gets on here tonight as well. But before we show you and get into the qualifying session, let's let Mitt take you first of all through a hot lap of the Montreal circuit.
For a track around the Gilles Villeneuve circuit here in Montreal, as we had for first brake very hard and third, take a bit of curves here, don't take too much curves, don't go early on throttle, keep it in 4 just to make sure I get better exit, no wheel spin on exit, then blind hard ride about 75 meters, a little bit too early steering there, much more speed. Perhaps that we'll see in qualifying. Then difficult start to the second sector. Very easy to lose the car here. As you see a little bit of spin on a bit of time. Now making our way down to the second fast combination. Right this time brake find about where the shadows are. You see once again the entry was not then for the hairpin. Braking late just when you see the spit of grass. Had a bit of problems with the shifting there. Managed to get out. Do go out and go a little bit quicker. And now we make our way towards the final corner. The long back straight. And the most infamous corner of this track. Of champions. Claimed champions before, but not today. Good entrance. Can take a bit more risk here. And with that, we complete our wrap around Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal.
Great stuff by Mitt there, taking you through the lap. This circuit is 4.3 kilometers, 2.7 miles, and has 14 turns in total. And of course, some crucial DRS zones which the drivers will also be using as well. So it's going to be absolutely action-packed stuff here in Montreal. Cannot wait for it to get underway. We are also, another thing we're waiting to get underway is the lobby. Usually when we would come back from the hot lap, it would be all ready and all done. But it seems like we are just in a little bit of a delay. But we should be getting underway for you very, very shortly. Apologies for the little lag you would have had in the hot lap. I think me and Meta finally, after weeks and weeks, have figured out maybe the little issue that is causing it. But luckily, it was just about bearable. And I didn't want to have the hot lap fully go to waste. So luckily we were able to get that on for you. Qualifying, we have the countdown right now in the lobby. So we are about to get underway. And Mitt, what are you expecting in this qualifying session? And can we maybe get one little prediction from you? It's going to be close. It's going to be wide open. But can we get a little prediction from you?
Well, I think what we're definitely going to see is 108. That is going to be the pole lap time, whether that's going to be 6 or 7 or perhaps a little bit lower. We'll still have to see. I mean, of course, I met on pole last time was Emil Lundell, so I think he's going to be rather quick. But for this one, I'm not sure why, but I have a feeling that Felipe is going to be pretty strong here in Montreal. So I think I'll put Felipe on pole. We'll go with Emil Lundell second, and I think Tomasco Kenny will go third. What do you think?
Interesting. Nice 3 picks there. Now, I'm going to be a bit cheeky and give mine later on in the session after seeing a first one. So I definitely put you a bit on the spot there. But we are about to get into it then. As you mentioned, we're probably going to be seeing 1 minute 8s as well by the drivers. And there was a lot of discussion going on between all of the drivers in, of course, the Discord chat. And they were all discussing as Kuba's left the session, so hopefully he isn't having any sort of issues. But there was plenty of discussion going on between all of the drivers in there, and they were all mentioning about and asking each other's personal bests as well, just making sure that they're in there, or do they need a lot more practice?
Well, all the practice that they need, they will only have 3 laps to do it here. And in Canada, as I've noticed as well during my hot laps, very easy to pick up track limits. If it's not in the Wall of Champions, it will be turn 3, where you take the blind right-hander down below. So it's very easy to pick up track limits here. Drivers definitely need to keep an eye on that. But if they get a clean racing line through there, they should be able to complete their laps. And yeah, they also do have to make sure that they don't bin it in the Wall of Champions, because we've seen many champions put it in there before. I believe 5 world champions in total.
Yep, and we've just seen our championship leader disqualified. Sorry, not disqualified, left. Yeah, I would have scared you guys for a second. We've just seen him left. So he's disconnected. I honestly don't have a clue. We saw Kuba disconnect. Felipe's back in. Kuba got back in. Bit confused what is going on, but it seems like qualifying is going to get underway. Of course, we didn't want to have to delay it even more, but we can finally look down in the pit lane, and we should have the pictures of it appearing soon. There we go. Tyus Korsman's now left the session, and he's restarting his PC.
He's restarting.
Yeah, he's restarting his PC. So all is happening right now. So a bit of a scruffy start here at Canada. But in the meantime, while the drivers load their setups, it is overcast, as you can tell by the clouds. You can also tell, of course, we've got the GT Omega, SLC, PSGL, and all of those lovely sponsorship around this circuit once again. And it's great to be continuing those on as well, but a few issues for a few drivers, possibly even with the lobby, who knows. But qualifying is underway then, the time is ticking, and the drivers are about to begin their first run out of 3 that they will get in this session. Kuba has joined back. We'll hopefully see Tyus Korsman joining back as well, but we'll get everything up for you then, so you're going to be able to have the data you need to be able to follow this ultra close qualifying session. Surely it will be, and it will be Boris who will be getting us going for his first run. So it's going to be exciting to see how he gets on in the Sauber colors, of course, then, and we ride on board with him. He'll be hoping for a good qualifying in this session. He's only had 1 point finish this season, and starting rally is going to be crucial if he wants to make it 2 then.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy qualifying for him, but seeing a lot of cars already out of the pit straight means that we might have some rain underway later on in the race. Just a quick note, Linus Donovan has stepped in. Sparky was not here for the race, unfortunately, tonight. So we have 1 reserve driver tonight. All the other 19 drivers are full-time drivers, and we have a full grid here today as we see Boris start his hot lap. And let's see how he takes us through the Senna S's. So first left, then right. But he takes a lot of curb there as he makes it out in his way out on the exit. Does go a bit more into 3rd. Not an early shift into 4th. And yeah, here the blind corner. Very difficult to take it. Perhaps not ideal, not taking as much speed through there as he perhaps would have liked to. But so far, a pretty decent start to the lap, and should be well on his way to set a proper banker lap.
Should be indeed. And you mentioned about we have one reserve driver, and the reserve driver we have is Linus Donovan. Great to have him back. He raced once this season, and in the race that he did racing, that was at Spa, he managed to get second position. So we have been mentioning, we mentioned it in Monaco, we mentioned it as well last time out in Austria, that it would be that we hope to see him back soon as well, and he is going to be back. A bit close for Boris as the McLaren was weaving there as well. That was Linus Donovan as we talk about him. So yeah, great to have him back, and I will be and it will be amazing as Boris makes his way back into the pit lane. But it will definitely be amazing if he's able to maybe even take victory. Who knows? He definitely showed some great pace. So if you can get the qualifying together, who knows? Anything is possible. But it's great to see him back. Great to see Thijs Korsman back inside the lobby. But Boris abandoned that lap. We are on board now and watching the man who has taken 2 victories this season. You've had 2 winners, Felipe Sales and Jona Martins. They've both won 2 each in the 4 rounds that we've had so far. And Jona Martins winning the first and the last one that we ran. Zach Miles has got the fastest lap, not for too long though, because Keanu Litard has gone ahead. Here comes Jona Martins now over the line, and he now goes to the front of the field. We're going to be making our way into the 1 minute 8. That's the predicted pole lap that we are going to be getting, but we might not reach that if the drivers aren't able to get a good first run, and maybe the rain comes down, because that could also be something if the rain was to come down. Here comes the second Sauber driver in the field, Tristan Debecourt over the line. He goes to third, was third, but now fourth, because Alan Banasak has gone to the front of the field.
Yeah, now Luca Walsh also comes across the line. He's currently in 4th place. We see a lot of drivers picking up the paces. Felipe Salsa is the first one to break the 109 barriers. Goes into a 108.951. As we still have more drivers out on track, but Emil Lundell hadn't validated. Kuba Trzeziak is about to come across the line, and he is going to set a 109.4, so slightly off there. Linus Donovan also invalidated. More drivers in the pits. Nardi Perez is actually out on the hard, so I'm not entirely sure what his plans are for tonight. But I think... No, he doesn't have damage. He's making sure that the other drivers can go by. But few drivers already on their outlap again. So Boris Zakulsak and Tias Korsman, although for Tias it will be his first lap. All the other drivers have either completed their lap or have invalidated.
Yep, we are watching Nardi Perez then, as you mentioned, on the hard compound of tyres with an invalidated lap as well. There's a lot of drivers struggling to get lap times on the board. One of them was Linus Donovan as well, and your pole sitter from the last race as well, Emil Lundell, having issues, and it was a great spectacular pole last time out in Austria for him, but he's going to be under pressure a tiny bit, especially if the rain is going to come down, and we're riding on board with different cars because it could be appearing any second with how dark the circuit is getting. This could be the grid, who knows, this could literally be the grid for the race if the rain was to come down, and it would definitely wash away all of the grip and mean that there won't be any advantage for any of the drivers coming in after this, and it would be a Red Bull lockout the front row, and it would also definitely and it would definitely mean that in the race they're going to start well to try and extend their advantage, so that would be good. Now we are at a bit of a quiet part of this session as well, as they all make their way back to the pit lane after run 1. Run 2 is about to get underway, but let's hear from the man who is top of the timing page and also the championship, Felipe Souza.
Well, the championship has been pretty good to me. To be honest, I was trying to practice so much more than the last season in F5, because last season I didn't even use 2 setups like in qualifying and 1 for the race as we usually do in F4, F3. But yeah, this season I'm just practicing a lot, especially qualifying, because if you start the race in the front, I think it's much easier to avoid damage, etc., to make a good strategy. So yeah, as we've seen in the last couple races, I have started P6 in Australia with almost my PB, so I knew this season wouldn't be easy. So I needed to practice much more, and then I did for Belgium, which I started on pole. Pole by time, and then would be always pretty close. I started P5 there, but it was actually a pretty good race. I started less lap in P1, but ended up in P4. But it happens, and yeah, still leading the championship, which is pretty good. I'm gonna hope to maybe be promoted. I don't know, but I think this season is pretty close between everyone. I've just been up there in the first 4 rounds, but maybe for the next ones, people practice a bit more, and then I'm just gonna go down. So we never know, actually. But yeah, I think the next races are gonna be pretty good.
So, in the meantime, we've had some spectacular laps coming in. Tyres Korsman, PC issues earlier on, now second position right now, and is close to Felipe Sousa. Daniel Gottschalk in third, and Alan, who found himself in second, now is in fourth. Jonas Martins is pushing on a lap right now, so we'll ride on board with a Ferrari driver once again then. Still clouds in the air, but improvement to be found around this circuit at the moment. Throws it in to turn number 8, about to go down to the braking zone, the hairpin, which will see a lot of dive bombs in the race as well, especially if you are lower down the order. He makes his way through the hairpin, and now we'll be going down towards the final chicane on this circuit. The final 2 corners, of course, more as the Wall of Champions. Let's see if that's going to catch anyone out. They have been getting super close to the wall because they're always pushing the limits through that part of the lap. How brave is Jonas Martins going to be? Very, because he's hit the wall a tiny bit and was sliding his way out of the chicane. Over the line he goes. It's a lap. That's good enough. Right now for P2, he is still behind his championship rival. However, it's Julian moving up to 4th position. It's Zach Miles in P5 as well, and we have more drivers still pushing on. Plenty of traffic out there. It's Felipe Sousa extends his advantage, and your prediction for pole being Felipe Sousa looking good right now as he takes it even further away from the field.
Yeah, really good laps coming out for him. Just Luca Walsa unfortunately having to go into the pits for yet another aborted lap. Tomas Kenny has just started his lap. Emil Lundell just finished his. But is he invalidated? His lap didn't show up. He had a 108.9, so he must have invalidated. Then there's Donovan on a lap 2. And so is Nairo Perez just driving around the Harts picking up track limits. So not entirely sure what is happening there. But if we go on board with Linus Donovan, a reserve driver, let's see how quick he can go around the second sector. His lap so far seems to be quite stable as he's now going to go into the hard braking zone of the hairpin. We see the driver slide there a little bit, perhaps losing a little bit of time as a result. But so far so good. And yeah, only 2 drivers that have been able to get below the 109s. And the second driver actually being Kryzix. We've not seen his lap, but he snuck in there with the AlphaTauri. So great lap by him.
Great lap indeed by him. Linus Donovan has invalidated once again, and that's the thing about this circuit. Definitely is really challenging. Emil Lundell is still in the play right now of completing this lap. We don't know how fast it's going to be though until he comes over the line. However, the main invalidating zone is the final chicane. He's not going to have to deal with that though because he's coming into the pit lane. More improvements. We'll look at the order because we have more improvements coming in. Keanu Leetard is into 5th position. You've got Kuba Tresniak currently in 9th as well. And Thomas Konkenny right now not pushing on. He's currently just out of ERS and on a out lap. We'll see if there's anyone else who is pushing around the circuit. Thomas Bulldog is about to begin a push lap. We're watching Noel Coleman though. And let's see if he's going to be able to do anything. As we'll go down to the hairpin, we'll see if there's an improvement being found by the Ferrari driver. We won't be able to see that because it's his first lap, however. So we'll see then as he comes over the line of how it looks. Puts foot to the floor then. And DRS is going to go wide open for the Ferrari driver then. And he's got traffic ahead, which will hopefully be out of the way. And it was. Throws it into the chicane. Keeps it inside track limits. And now brings it up to the gears. Into 7th gear he goes. Makes his way up into 8th soon. And that lap time is only good enough for 15th for him. Bit of a disappointment for him. He'll be hoping that he can get higher up the order. And now our attentions will go to Thomas Bulldog, who's also pushing on right now.
Yeah, Thomas Bulldog pushing on as in the meantime, Thias Korsman in the first sector is a 10th up on his own lap time, so he might be gunning for a 108 as well. But if we see Thomas Buldra, he's making his way to the end of the second sector. We see 48 there. This is about half a second quicker than we just saw Noel Carmen do. He should be on for about a 108.9 as well. So this is a very good lap currently by Thomas Buldra. As we now get the confirmation, we're going to get a lobby restart with a grid penalty applied for Zach Miles. That, of course, we won't be adhering. Let's see how Thomas Buldra goes. He picks up track limits. That's so unfortunate. That was a great lap so far.
Was a good lap, and it was a major slide as well that cost him some time. So we're not even going to be able to get a bit of a benchmark there for him. Lost plenty of time out of that last corner. Almost lost the car into the barrier. And into second position goes Alan Banasak once again. It's a Red Bull front row, and this qualifying session's kind of turning into a bit of real life, isn't it? With Red Bulls at the front of the field. Alan doing really, really well. We of course had him battling in Austria, and then it all faded away from him after the pit stops, and then he had a wide moment, had a spin, and it was all going wrong for him there. Now, let's see. Jane Tripkov has been able to join his teammate right now on the third row. That is, but he'll be hoping to improve. He was on the third row. He's now been beaten by Luca Walsters. More drivers try to get lap times on the board. Here is the Williams driver right now, Julian. And he'll make his way down towards the chicane and try and keep it inside track limits. Always is the question. Your lap could be going perfect, but then you have 2 corners to go. Jonah Martins has been able to split the Red Bulls once again and get super close to the back of Felipe Salza lap time wise. Let's see what Julian can do. Over the line he goes. He finds an improvement to P5. Decent lap there for the Williams as he goes into 5th. But Jonah Martin still trying to get a lap in that can get him ahead of Felipe Salza. That's going to be even harder because everyone throws down a lap that gets close. Then Felipe Salza takes it further away.
Yeah, and the only man who was still on a hot lap just now, Tristan Debicor, is invalidated through the wall of champions as well. But if Felipe just keeps improving like this, it's going to be incredibly difficult to beat him. As you indeed mentioned, they get close to Felipe, and when they're close, that's when Felipe pulls an improvement, and that's when it will be even more difficult to catch. He's 2/10 away from Jonah Martins, the man in P2, and all the other drivers are further and further away from that. So far, still 4 drivers only to break the 109 barriers, and hopefully we'll see more drivers beat it. But it is not going to be an easy one. We see that Nardi Perez is just doing runs on the hard, so I think he's more running a free practice session instead of qualifying. So I think he's decided who won't be starting up front that far. But what's interesting to see, 3 drivers unable to set a lap time just yet. Emil Lundell, Linus Donovan, and Thomas Buldra. They have 2 minutes and 35 seconds for that. So it will be 1 more lap that they can try it for, as we see 2 drivers already leave the pits. That's now 4, with Zach Miles, Kryzik, Gianolito, and Noel Carmen, also Kuba Treziak now leaving the pit straight. So final runs are coming in now. This is when it's going to count.
It is when it's going to count as well. And it'll be Kryzik, the French driver, who currently sits in P4. Let's see if he can try and get into the top 3. Can he try and bring out a major lap at the end to try get himself onto the front row? Maybe even, well, front row is definitely possible for second, but can he try bring a major lap to challenge Felipe Salza? So he'll be the first driver who will be able to watch as he'll make his way down towards the chicane, and we'll put foot to the floor. We'll ride on board with the AlphaTauri driver. He knows this is the lap that is going to count right at the end, and he'll make his way down towards turn number 1. Then we'll get the car rotated for turn number 2 and 3, and then it's back on the power. Bit of traffic that is going to be hopefully out of the way for him. That was a Ferrari, and it was out of the way, luckily, as Kryzik throws the car in and he spins and he crashes out. Kryzik crashes out of qualifying. He'll be in 4th, but he'll be under major pressure and pushing to the limit. Unfortunately, he's just pushed over the limit there, and that is going to mean that Kryzik is not going to be able to improve on his time, and it's going to be over now to Zach Miles, who will be beginning a lap very shortly. Noel Coleman has also began a lap. Here he is in the Ferrari, currently pushing on as well, as he now makes his way down towards turn number 4 of the circuit. Let's see if he's going to be able to get a clean lap, and Noel Coleman definitely needs it. He's not had the best of runs so far, so let's see if he's going to be able to find it. He's up by 1/10 of a second, but surely he needs more if he wants to challenge for the top 10. And let's see if he's going to find it in the second sector of this circuit as he makes his way through turn number 8 now, getting close to the wall as per usual. But let's see if he can keep it inside track limits through the final 2 corners of the circuit. Now about 3/10. That's more like it for the Ferrari driver. He makes his way through the hairpin, struggling though out of the hairpin crucially. And now we're going to be seeing the flying laps coming in thick and fast. DRS wide open. He'll make his way down towards the chicane. The Sauber driver up ahead will be out of the way. The checkered flag is out. Tristan Debecourt has not made it to the line in time. Noel Coleman does not keep it inside track limits. That is over for him. Let's see what Zach Miles can do. He'll be making his way over the line. Felipe Sales is not going to be able to improve his time. We see Keanu Littard go into 7th. What can Zach Miles do in the McLaren as he'll make his way now to the line? He goes up into 4th. Good effort there by the McLaren man. Korsman has invalidated, so he won't be able to improve. Luca Wallstow is down. So Luca Wallstow is down right now. Here is Yoda Martins up by 13 thousandths of a second in the first sector. Is it looking better for him in the second? It is, but he'll need to find a lot of time at the end if he wants to take pole position away from Felipe Sousa. And this is going to come down all to the last sector of how brave he's feeling through the final chicane. He's surely going to go all in. We see Thomas Buldra find a lap for P6. Linus Donovan will be starting at the back, and we make our way through the final corner with Yona Martins. Can he find something magical right at the end of the session to try and get onto pole? He can! Fantastic stuff by Yona Martins, all done in the last sector, delivers the lap and is on pole for the Canadian Grand Prix.
That last sector was amazing. Going through the wall of champions as quickly as possible. He gained almost like 2/10s in a final sector, and it's enough to bet Felipe Sousa to pole 21 thousandths of a second as they share the front row together. And then it's Alan Banasek, Zach Miles in P4, Kryzix with also a very good run. And then Thomas Boulder, the last of 6 drivers to go below 109s. And then to round up the top 10, Julian 28, James Trepkov, Tias Korsman, and finally Keanu Lito, rounding off our top 10. But great qualifying. Luca also starts to pick up the pace a little bit. He's in P11 as he still wants to stay within the championship fight. But great results by the 2 championship protagonists. So we'll definitely need to keep an eye on both Jonah and Felipe tonight.
Yep, absolutely as well. So there is your order then for the qualifying session. And now we are going to be making our way through into the race with a lobby restart. However, before we get into that, let's quickly give a big shout out to our sponsors at SLC and GT Omega. Great to hear from both of our lovely sponsors, and there you can see also the GT Omega chair as well, and you can get 5% at checkout if you use the code PSGL for any GT Omega products as well. So make sure you go and take a look at that as well. However, we are going to now be having a quick little lobby restart, and then we'll be bringing you the action from Canada.
Yeah, so we have to wait a little bit for the restart to happen. But we heard from the drivers what the weather was going to be like. And it sounds like we might see some rain towards the end of the race. So if that comes through with the new lobby settings, we could be seeing a very, very interesting strategy coming into play at the end of the race here tonight. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. That is going to spice up Montreal just a little bit more. But we've just seen an amazing qualifying, haven't we, Olmi?
We have indeed, and now we are just currently waiting, and there we go, the lobby is up, so I'm just going to quickly join, and then we should be able to get underway. And Mitt, we of course always get chaos. What are you predicting though? How much chaos do you think we're going to get?
It really depends around what time the rain is going to come out, because if the drivers are going to be on old tires, it starts to rain, then it's very, very easy to make a mistake. In general, I think in Canada, aside from just picking up track limits, I don't think too many drivers will crash it. Not too many drivers are going to fully risk it into turn 3, where we saw Kryzik's crash out earlier on. So I don't think we have to worry about that too much. Safety cars perhaps could happen if there's a little bit of contact, if drivers try to go 2 or even 3 wide in certain areas. But I don't think we have to expect a safety car, at least not for until the rain comes. So I think we'll have a lot of fights, especially going down to the hairpin. But we definitely have to keep our eyes peeled and focused on both Jonah Martins and Felipe Sosa, because they will likely try and pull away a little bit and have a little bit of a, early championship fight, so to say.
Yep, absolutely. So that will be interesting to see, but let's just discuss that lap by Jonah Martins. That was incredible. And it was kind of Max Verstappen style for Monaco. First sector and second sector, not too good. Third sector, delivered it all. And I did mention he would have to be brave through the Wall of Champions and risk it all. And of course, he really had nothing to lose as well at the same time. Most drivers came over the line before him, so he was going to be second, even if he crashed out. So all he needed to do was go all in and possibly snatch pole. He did snatch pole. That was absolutely incredible stuff by him, and definitely a lot of people wouldn't have expected it with how dominant Felipe Sousa was. But that last sector, not even the lap, that last sector was absolutely incredible by Jonah Martins. So big well done to him. He'll be on pole. However, pole around this circuit, of course, is also pretty useful as well. You get to lead into turn number 1. However, all of that does change after we get through lap number 1, because of course with DRS they just exchange positions. But always, pole position's definitely a great thing for a driver. And around this circuit, we don't usually see too many changes at turn number 1 for the lead, because of pole having the inside line. So usually they maintain it, but after that, that's when we're going to be getting the action, and possibly P2 could be battling with drivers behind as well. So that's going to be interesting to see. And right now, I believe we have everyone in the lobby, so soon we should be getting underway. And we're also going to have rain at the end of the session, Mitt, at the end of the race. So that could bring a lot of chaos if the rain was to come in the last few laps, and we have this scenario where the drivers have to pit, but they're not going to because there's not too much time remaining. We could get something like that. So that would definitely be a lot of fun, and then we see plenty of chaos. But that would definitely be action-packed, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm immediately getting some Sochi flashbacks here with Lando and Lewis ending up winning the race there. Been fortunate for Lando, but yeah, I mean, here in Canada, we do have to keep an eye though at the start, because it is very tight going into turns 1 and 2, the Senna S's, so it is very easy to make contact there. Aside from that, I don't think the drivers will be coming into touch with each other too much, although the rain, when it does come, if it does come, is going to play a big part in this race. Now, we are going to have 35 laps, so it's a pretty long race as well. Pit lane time loss, only 18.2 seconds, so that is not too bad, although incidents in the pit can also happen. Just ask Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Räikkönen for that case. But here for our PSGL drivers, that of course won't really happen. Won't see any chaos in the pit lane, but we might see some chaos heading into the pits, because it's a very hard braking into the pit lane, because you're pretty much approaching at 320 kilometers an hour and then hard braking it back down onto 80. So might see some penalties being handed out in that regard as well. But aside from that, I think a lot of close racing. That's at least what I do predict.
We are going to get so much close racing. Cannot wait for that. Do let us know in the live chat on who you are predicting and who you are supporting. We can see some Tyus Korsman support coming in the live chat. So do let us know who you are predicting and supporting as well in this race. Now, as you mentioned, safety cars, we could get that in the first sector. It is a bit, it can get a bit tight as well in the second sector with walls at some parts close, at some part it's a bit more away. So safety cars definitely could happen if we do see contact at specific parts of the sector, or we just see drivers spinning and crashing like we saw with Cryzix, because it can be pretty easy to do from time to time if you get over certain curbs or if you are not on the ideal racing line. So things can easily go wrong with that. However, we are going to get underway very, very shortly for this race. And Mitt, we asked you for your prediction in qualifying. We thought you were going to get it right, but you didn't due to the surprise third sector by Jonah Martins. Who are you predicting, though, for the race?
Well, that is going to be a tough one. I think the fight definitely is going to be between Jonah and Felipe. What we've seen before in races, though, that Jonah's strategy has been superior. So if he's not contested too much, then Jonah should take it. But if we're going to see rain at the end, we've seen how strong Felipe was in the rain on Monaco. So if the rain does come out, I think Felipe will have the slight upper hand. If the rain doesn't come, then I think Jonah is going to take it.
Interesting stuff as well. We are about to get into it then. We'll be going to the loading screen, and then we should be all underway and getting ready to begin. Just taking a look. Everyone seems to have loaded in other than Julian so far. So let's hope he is able to load in, or that will be him losing. Oh, he's been able to, luckily. Or that, of course, that can really affect the drivers if they do disconnect at the start and the race gets underway. They will, of course, drop to the back of the field. But we now are looking down in the pit lane, and you can see right on the side there, you have all of the cars lined up, getting ready, getting all set to go racing. This is going to be a very, very exciting start to this one. Who knows? There still could be contact. There still could be anything that does happen on this opening lap of this race. So let's see how this goes on then. And 35 laps, as you mentioned. Rain coming in at the end, whereas look, of course, it's a bit more less darker than we had in qualifying, but we do usually get to see it change very quickly here in the F1 23 game. So we're going to be getting darker and darker, and it will be interesting to see when we get the rain coming in. We are predicting most of the race though to be dry, but that can all change around easily as well. And then you also are going to have safety cars and plenty of other chaos. So we do get a late safety car that could bring in soft runs by the drivers as well, coming in right at the end, and that does give us a bit of chaos with plenty of drivers staying out and then some coming in. So that usually does get really, really interesting. But we're just right now waiting with all of the drivers lined up. Of course, we just had to wait a little bit due to the issues that a few drivers have been having with the black screen. So just to avoid that, just to make sure they're all loaded in and all that, we of course are having a little bit of a wait, and of course the drivers getting their setups in. But it does seem like that everyone is in, and then hopefully we're going to be able to get underway.
Yes, hopefully we'll be able to indeed get underway quickly. And here we go as the lights do come on with 3, 4, and 5 red lights. And they go up very quickly, and a good start from Felipe Sass on the inside. He might be able to pip Jonah Martins to the race lead straight away, because he will be on the outside for turn 1, but will be on the inside for turn 2. And it's race lead to Felipe Sass, and later on in the grid, we see Boris Zakosa dropping down a little bit, but no real contact happening at the race start. But our new race leader
Yep, absolutely there as well. It is Felipe Souza who leads the way. He was on the soft compound of tires, so he got the better grip to go down the outside and was able to move through into the lead. Yona Martins is in second, Zach Miles in third, and then you have Alan Banasak giving chase to Zach Miles. Moves being attempted further back. That is Jane Tripkoff up against Kryzik as they go down into the braking zone. Are they all going to be able to make their way through? There's some side by side between Julian and Tyus Korsman, and that's Tyus Korsman trying to pull out. Go to the inside. He'll switch to the outside and try be late on the brakes and go round the outside. There's some side by side in the background as well. Let's see if Korsman can get ahead. He does get ahead, but Julian will have an opportunity to try come back. Felipe Salza on the soft, starting to pull away and is leaving Yona Martins on the defensive as we go down to the braking zone. Another driver on the defensive is Tyus Korsman because Julian is all over the back, and so is going to be Kuba with the soft compound of tires, and the Alpine driver could be about to make a move here. Might be Julian actually getting past Korsman, who will be late on the brakes. They take it down to turn number 1, and Kuba right now has nowhere to go. Is a gap going to open though with better traction on the inside line for the Alpine? It seems like that we're going to have Julian into 8th. Who's going to be in 9th? Wheel to wheel, shown the wall is Kuba, but he might get ahead. He is going to get ahead, and there's some side-by-side further back now, and we're 3 wide as we make our way momentarily through, and Tristan Debecourt, another driver on the soft, trying to fight his way through as well.
Very, very interesting fight in the mid-pack as Gene Tripkoff takes over P4 from Alan Banasek. Also a soft runner starting to make up some positions. Tomasko Kenny has just gone past Luca Wolsto. But we see the soft runners early on try to get a little bit of a gap, try to overtake a little bit more. And at front, Felipe Salsa has been able to pull a gap of 2.5 seconds already. So he definitely is going for that off-stretch strategy. Wants to get out of DRS range and wants to, win the race later on. Perhaps even go to the mediums. So go soft mediums where most drivers are going to go for hard mediums. But I think they're also trying to calculate in somewhere where the rain is going to come out. As Felipe says, a 111.5. Oh. That is a really, really quick lap. And I think Emil Lundell has just gone... Has he crashed out? What's happened?
Emil Lundell has gone off the road through the final corner. We were unable to catch that one, but the Alpine driver has dropped down. He is at the back of the field and has a 5-second gap to close back in. Disappointment for your pole sitter from Austria. He is going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to get near the front of the field once again. But Kuba is battling now with Julian. He gets ahead. Tyus Korsman still in this battle as well. And Julian trying to keep his foot in round the outside. That'll be late on the brakes by Kuba. Off the road goes Julian. He'll rejoin. And we nearly get Vettel and Hamilton here at Canada, but at a different part of the circuit once again. With now Tyus Korsman late on the brakes on Kuba as he tries to make the move. Julian's up against Tristan Debecourt. He's also on the softs, as I mentioned earlier on, so he's trying to make up some progress, and we could be about to go 3 wide because they've got the Mercedes of Tyus Korsman in there as well as they do battle. That is Thomas Buldra being passed by Kuba, and we've got Julian up against Korsman as they make their way through over the road, and Tyus Korsman as Thomas Buldra dives it into the pit lane. Tristan Debecourt is going to get ahead of Tyus Korsman and Julian, but we of course had Julian over the curb, and Tyus Korsman was very close to the wall there, so hopefully they've all been able to avoid damage.
Hopefully they've been able to avoid damage indeed, as DRS has been activated since the last lap, and we're going to see some more overtaking moves happen as a result for it. In this case, as Tomasko Kenny picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. We see Zach Miles, Jane Tripkoff, Alan Manasek, Kryzik staying within reach of Yona Martins, who's of course 3.6 seconds away from Felipe. But Felipe has been able to pull that gap on the softs earlier on, and we'll see that gap come down later on in the race. Also, Kuba Tresiak, Tristan Debecourt has made up quite a few positions. I think they've pretty much reached the peak of what they can gain. I think now it's starting to become territory for Luca Wolsto to start and gain some positions. He's about 4/10 away from his teammate, Daniel Gottschalk, as has just made their way through the hairpin. So perhaps with a little bit of DRS play coming into action, he could get a little bit closer to him. But if we look at the rest of the field, it's also Zach Miles starting to close in onto Jonah now. As we see Daniel Gottschalk actually come in for an early pit stop. So I think the drivers might realize that the rain's actually coming in earlier, because I would not see why the drivers would come into the pits anyway, otherwise, unless it's for, front wing change. So it's a front wing change and mediums going on the car of Daniel Gottschalk. So a little bit of contact there. That forced him to come in. So no strategies based on the rain just yet, but a lot of gaps being very, very tight. So a lot of battles to watch out for on the track.
Plenty of battles indeed. We are currently watching Zach Miles, contended of course for the F5 Championship last season. He's had the best finish of P4 and he's had 2-point finishes. Can he get on the podium? Can he get on the roster? And for the first time this season, he is battling at the front right now though, in the battle for second right now. However, it can all easily change around, especially with safety cars, especially with late restarts as well, and of course during the pit stop phase we always do get to see a lot of changes there. But let's see if Zach Miles can try get ahead of Jono Martins. Not the best exit out of the corner, and you've also got Jane Tripkoff who's on the soft, which will be degrading, who's also right behind as well. But now we're starting to see the DRS train form, meaning that we aren't going to be getting as much as moves as we were earlier on, but they will start to come in when the drivers are going to really going to make the move, because they're also trying to charge up their ERS sitting behind each other. So there's no real rush for any of these drivers to make the move absolutely that they need to make the move right now, so they can just sit behind their rivals. We usually do get to see, I think you all know the basics of how it all runs and how these drivers do it strategy wise, not only in the pit lane but also on the circuit with saving the ERS. So there's a lot right now that the drivers are going to be thinking about, and some of them you're just going to see constant passes as well, like the one we are about to get onto the straight. And that is going to be Zach Miles alongside Jono Martins, and we are going to get an easy pass for second position as through goes the McLaren of Zach Miles.
Yeah, meantime in the back of the field we see Noel Carmen already battle it out. There might be some attempted overtake into the Wall of Champions as well, near the Wall of Champions, as we see that Noel has just gone past Nardi Perez again, but I think that's because they both have DRS, so he can stay ahead of Nardi in this case, although the gap now up front has opened up to 1.2 seconds. Tristan Debicor and Kuba Trzeziak have gotten much closer to Kryzik, so it's looking like the softs haven't fully run out of power just yet, as Boris picks up another penalty for track limits, not having the race that he would have won at least so far. But the soft runners still staying up there in contention, and that is going to make it much harder for the hard drivers to make their strategy work.
Definitely will be as well. We're still focused right now on Nardi Perez up against Noel Coleman as they make their way through in the battle for 13. Definitely one of the close battles that we have going on right now, but we're also going to have the battle for second and the battle for fourth as well. They're all in one train, but Alan Banasak getting onto the back of Jane Tripkoff, and we could be getting the move by the Red Bull man up against the Mercedes. He will be late on the brakes. Dive to the inside. Is Jane Tripkoff going to give up the corner? He's going to run wide off the corner. That is not what he wanted at all. And it seems like we might have the McLaren of Linus Donovan, who has had a moment. It is Linus Donovan who's had a moment on the circuit, and he's lost a bit of time there as he continues right now in 16th.
Yeah, in the meantime, Nardi Perez has gotten past Noel Carmen on the long back straight, heading towards the right-left chicane that is called the Wall of Champions. Of course, it was never really the Wall of Champions when the track opened up, but it got this name in 1999 when in the race 3 world champions hit the wall there. Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, Jacques Villeneuve. The track not named after Jacques Villeneuve, but named after his father in 1982. The year that he tragically passed away when he was driving for Ferrari. I believe it was Zolder where that happened. But enough facts and details about the real F1 race. What we're interested about, and of course, is here the action at PSGL. As we see Kuba Trzeziak drop down the order a little bit. I think he might have made a slight mistake, because now also Julian has gone past him and Kuba has been ghosted out. So now, he's looked like he's got a disconnect there. So that is why he's dropped down the order a little bit. That's very unfortunate for the Alpine driver, who's doing so well up until this point. But yeah, P5 now to reach, and he'll have to resume from P10 on the grid.
Disappointment for Kuba Trzeziak, who has dropped down the order after having a disconnect. He's been able to join back luckily though, but he has lost plenty of time, so he'll have to make up a lot of positions. So unfortunate there for him, but It's the battle for second that is still very close, but Jonah Martin's of course not going to make the move unless it's a slam dunk. No point wasting time. Felipe Salza still sitting at the front of the field with a 4.5 seconds gap, as that's now stabilized as well, as the soft tires, as I mentioned, starting to fade away from the drivers. Let's see if Noel Coleman can make a move for Nardi Perez, because if you are battling for 13th and 12th, you're not really going to be sitting behind your rivals. You are going to be wanting to make the move as soon as possible and get onto the back of other drivers. But compared to, let's say, the battle for second or the lead, it is a bit of a different story, because right now you're at this part of the race where you know there's possible chances of fighting for other positions, as Jonah Martins gets himself back into second position. But you, of course, really do want to try and make your way up through the field and try and make some progress. And that's Daniel Gottschalk up against Linus Donovan. And Daniel Gottschalk, with better traction, is going to have that position. But now, DRS belongs to Daniel Gottschalk. He'll get it for the next two straights due to one detection zone. And Emil Lundell has retired from the race, but that is in the pit lane, so that will not bring out any safety cars. Big disappointment from the man who was able to score a podium last time out. Emil Lundell getting a podium at Austria, but unfortunately the next race after that, here at Canada, he is not going to finish.
Yeah, and that also pretty much is the nail in the coffin for his championship hopes. Of course, after last race, we were hoping that he was going to pick up the pace a little bit. And even though he's only scored significant points in the last race, in the 10th place before, he was already fairly far back down the order, but did have good hopes of making his way into a potential championship fight after this race here tonight. But with the result here tonight, I think there is not much to look out for, at least in his case. In the meantime, further up ahead, Felipe Salza, Jonah Martins, that gap for P1 is still 3.6 seconds, but it's starting to stabilize, if not come down a little bit. I think it's coming down a little bit in favor of Jonah, the Ferrari driver. So that is good news for them. That does really show that the softs are starting to fade. And one driver that it is particularly important for is Jane Tripkov, because Kryzik's behind him is really getting closer every moment as we speak. And also Kristen Debicor, although he's closer to his courseman, also under pressure by Julian 28. Luca also, and also Keanu Lito, as Nardi Perez picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. And Nardi Perez is out as well. We have a safety car. That was a crash. That was a big, big crash. Just where we've seen Kryzik crash, just before the end of the first sector. And this safety car is going to ruin a lot of strategies. And I think in particular, Felipe Salza.
Safety car then is out. Nardi Perez has found the barrier, and due to that, we are going to have to get a safety car out on the circuit as we have our first interruption. That's a disappointment as Nardi Perez becomes our second retirement in the race, our first one on the circuit, though he found the barrier exactly where Kryzik did as well in qualifying. So, you would have also seen right before the safety car came out, I did pause the game momentarily. That was because I was just quickly sorting out the audio levels, as apparently it's a bit lower compared to our commentary, so we always want to try get that perfect for you, so hopefully that is a bit better. But right now, the race is going to be neutralized, and Jonah Martins, as you mentioned, was gaining on Felipe Salza. No problem about that anymore, though, because they're going to be on the back. Jane Tripkov is also in, and so is going to be absolutely everyone else. And Felipe Salza on the mediums, Jonah Martins on the mediums. They'll all be putting on the set of the medium compound tires unless someone decides to go really different. And also the drivers trying to set themselves up for the race. We also got Luca Walster, who's gone on to the hards, so he seems to be the only one so far who's gone on a different strategy. However, we are going to see the rain coming in later on, so definitely it's a possibility that these drivers could be basing their strategies off that.
Yeah, and that might play into the favor of Luca Walsall, because if the rain does come very late, then he is going to have the better tires, because the guys on mediums, when they know that the rain is coming, they'd rather stay out than to make a pit stop potentially for softs, just having to come in a few laps later on when the rain does come out. So they're kind of stuck to that strategy now, but most drivers start on hards anyway, so they had to switch for the mediums. So perhaps for the hard runners, less than ideal. For Felipe, he thinks he can make it work on the mediums. Perhaps for Luca, the strategy could work in his favor, so we have to keep an eye on him towards the latter part of the race. Good news, though, for Felipe is that the strategy that he had, get ahead of Jonah, and then be on the same set of compounds for the second run, he's now going to have the same freshness of tires, so because all the drivers just came into the pit. So a little bit of an advantage in that case. Of course, his gap is gone, but there's no tire advantage for Jonah. And yeah, with the pit stops, we saw Alan Banasek drop down a little bit. So Jane Trepkov and Kryzik have moved up a few positions. And also in the meantime, Tristan Debacor, who scored 1 point in his last race, currently in P7 for the Sauber F1 team.
Indeed as well. So we are behind the safety car then. And the race is going to be neutralised. You've got Boris on the hard. You've got Daniel Gottschalk on the hards along with Luca Wolster as well. So both Hasses going on to the hard compound of tyres there. As we make our way through them. On board we go with Tyus Korsman. Big congratulations to him. He's not changed his username yet, but he has joined the TF10 esports team. So big congratulations to him. And hopefully it all goes well for him there. And of course... let's see if his results are going to be improving with that as well. Joining a new team always definitely great for drivers. So let's see how he's going to be able to get on the, of course, F5 champion from last season. And this season not going as well compared to some of his rivals from last season, Felipe Souza. But he's definitely performed well, and he will be looking to hopefully be able to challenge at the front of the field like he did for Australia, because he started Australia absolutely perfect, and he's only had 1 point finish this season, and that was the podium that he got in the opening round of the season. So definitely more to come from Tyus Korsman this season when he's able to get it all together. We of course heard from Felipe Souza. He's been able to do a bit more practice. Safety cars coming in at the end of this lap, but Felipe Souza said he's been able to do more practice, and that's definitely helping him in this championship battle. But he knows, he mentioned it, that it's not going to be as simple. He may have looked dominant. He might, a lot of people say, be the championship favourite, and definitely some people would have said he's going to become the champion with how he's been driving. However, he's going to come under plenty of pressure, like he's about to do on the safety car restart, by Jona Martins, who is going to be sitting in behind. The Red Bull driver will take it through the chicane, and that is a good restart by Felipe Souza, who puts foot to the floor, and Noel Coleman picks up a 3-second time penalty, so just pushing a bit too much through the final corner there. But we are back to green flag racing conditions with Felipe Souza, the leader.
That was a really good restart by Felipe. Realized that he should go on the throttle just before the Wall of Champions so that he can take it full speed as sort of a run-up as you would do in quali, and that worked perfectly fine. Jonah not fully expecting it. Zach Miles getting very, very close to the back of him, but not really able to contest him as we speak for now. Alan Banasek, in the meantime, is getting very close to Kryzik zone. So a fight for P5 is starting to emerge as Alan Banasek is getting better through the Pont de la Concorde as they head on towards the hairpin curve, and the move towards the inside being made, space being given by Kryzik, and now the inside line coming out of the hairpin curve, and it looks like Alan Banasek has gotten ahead of Kryzik. So some great driving by him, but we saw that he was further up the field earlier on. He might have the better pace, but how much more pace does he have in that Red Bull? That is the big question.
Is the question indeed. Out of the final corner we go. Felipe Souza not with the tyre advantage, so not able to pull away in the same style he was able to earlier on at the race start, and everyone has stuck with him. We are getting a move there by Kuba going around the outside, turning it to the inside on Luca Wolster. They'll be side by side. It's Luca Wolster on the inside, Kuba on the outside as we go down to the braking zone, and Luca Wolster is going to be ahead as they still make their way through, but there's going to be chances for Kuba to try and come back in the Alpine car, the sole remaining Alpine in this race, after he found his teammate retiring earlier on, and he retired in the pit lane. So he's going to be trying to get Alpine some good points in this race. However, right now he is outside the points in 11th. He's trying to change that though, and if he can get past Luca Wolster, he'll be entering the points paying positions. Lap 15 of this race out of 35. There's plenty of smoke coming as usual, as we do get to see in the F1 23 game from these cars, and plenty of battling like we get to see in PSGL still happening. That is Daniel Gottschalk battling with Thomas Conkenny. The camera moving around a lot, which is telling us that the drivers have been absolutely squabbling and banging wheels. DRS is enabled, and it's Thomas Boulder ahead of Daniel Gottschalk then as we make our way down towards turn 1, and it's Julian applying a lot of pressure right now to Tristan Debacor as well.
Yeah, the gaps are starting to come back closer, but so far, really good defending as well by Luka Wolsto onto Kuba Teresiak. He is on the harder set of compounds, but is able to keep the medium runner behind him at bay. So great work by him. Further up ahead, as you mentioned, Julian, Tristan, Debicor starting to contest one another. Kryzik's starting to drop back a little bit in comparison to Alan Banasek, but that gap stays within a second, so there's not too much to worry about. As Jane Tripkov is also starting to close in a little bit more onto Zach Miles. That gap now under 0.3 of a second. But with pretty much every driver being within DRS ranges, we might see an overtaking opportunity by Tabasco Kenny as he slides down the inside of Daniel Gottschalk. Might still have a little bit of a worse exit, but it looks like so far is good enough to stay ahead, although I don't think that Daniel Gottschalk will just let him go. He is going to have a look. No, he's going to stay behind. He does concede position, so he will be driving in P16 for now. Remember, he is also a driver who is on the hards. They are in for the long run. They expect the rain to come at the stage later than we see the full drop-off from the mediums. So that will be the key question here tonight.
Keanu Leotard gets his way past Noel Coleman. He was able to be late on the brakes down the inside at the first turn of the racetrack and was able to fight his way through. So, they're all still running in a DRS train, as you mentioned, going down all throughout the order. We've got 18 drivers in the field, and you've got an 18-car DRS train being led by Felipe Souza at the moment. But Yona Martins has been getting close, but he's elected to sit behind. Daniel Gottschalk has been given a penalty, and Yona Martins just charging up the ERS. We still know, though, that the rain is possibly going to come near the end. That could absolutely change the game if we are to get a very late rain drops coming in, and that could definitely add a lot of action right at the end of this one. Alan Banasak getting close to Jane Tripkov, and he's going to make Jane Tripkov go on the defensive down to the first turn, and Jane Tripkov is actually going to allow Alan Banasak through there, so not choosing to fight that one, and the Mercedes driver lets through the Red Bull, who now sits in P4.
Yeah, good overtaking move by Alan Manasek, so right back into place where he left off before the pit stop sequence. But as we said, the Red Bull driver has a little bit of extra pace at the moment compared to his competitors. I'm not sure if he's got the extra pace advantage over Zach Miles as well, but that's something that we will see later. On the other hand, though, Tias Korsman is getting so much closer to Julian 28. That gap now only being 0.2. And as they make their way to the Pont de la Concorde, it's going to be close action. Still 0.2 as he's using a bit of his overtake. He wants to go for a move down the hairpin, but it's being defended by Julian quite well there. As Tias wants to go around the outside. There's almost no space there. The space given by Julian definitely minimal, as we see Boris Zakosek dropping down the order a little bit after a mistake through the same corner as we mentioned before. But yeah, Tias now being sent back a little bit as Kuba Teresiak now finally goes with the overtake onto Luka Wolsto. But I think Tias is not going to be happy with that defending from Julian. Though it was still clean, it was right on the edge.
That was close to the wall by Noel Coleman at the wall of champions there, but he didn't hit it. But yeah, that was close between Tyus Korsman and Julian. Julian doing all he can to defend. We're on board with the Mercedes driver who is giving chase. Boris is into the pit lane, and is that going to be a retirement? Is he in the pit lane yet? Is the question. No, he's had a spin. He's had another spin at the final corner. So 2 spins on lap number 18 for Boris Zakosek, not what the Sauber driver wanted, as he has lost a heap of time. It's 20 seconds a gap to the next car right now in this train. Now we'll look back to the battle between Tyus Korsman and Julian as well. Tyus Korsman surely going to have an opportunity. Julian almost dropping outside the 1 second. They go into the braking zone. We make our way through the final corner. Is Tyus Korsman going to be able to try and find a way through? DRS will be open, but it will also be open for Julian, so it doesn't seem like you'll be close enough on this lap to make a move. If you look further back, that's where the overtaking is going to be, as that is Keanu Leotard getting up the inside of the driver on the hards, Luka Wolsto, who will now have Noel Coleman to contend with, because the Ferrari driver is out of the slipstream, and with a bit of use of ERS, he will be able to move ahead before we even get into the braking zone. So it's Leotard up to 11th, and Coleman up to 12th.
Yeah, we see that the track is starting to get darker and darker as the laps progress, as Julian picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. He's currently in P8, that would drop him out of the points. But seeing how the weather is starting to evolve, I think within the next 5 laps or so, we could be seeing some raindrops. And if it happens that early enough, that might be good news for all the drivers that are currently on the mediums. As TS Korsman has gotten past Julian. So, yeah, if that does happen, then it is not so great news for Luca Wolso, who's dropped down the order a little bit. If the rain stays out a little bit longer, the longer it stays out, the better news it is for Luca.
Definitely is. And Julian there made the mistake. And that is why Tyus Korsman was able to get through into turn 8. Will he be able to stay ahead though? Because Julian's back out of the slipstream to the inside. And Tyus Korsman, who thought it was over, is now going to have to stare at the back of the Williams rear wing just for a little bit more. And this will be plenty of overtaking coming in between these two drivers now, because they've lost the 1 second. 1.2 seconds to the next driver in the train. That's Tristan Debecourt. Jane Tripkov is almost losing the 1 second to the top 4 as well. That's inviting Krajic's, who looks very, very close. And look how close these 4 cars are right now of Julian, Tyus Korsman, Kuba and Keanu Littard, all pushing each other. And watch Keanu Littard. He was looking very, very racy out of the corner. Who is going to be going for the move? Great helicam shot to show you it. Here comes the Mercedes of Korsman. He'll sit back because he doesn't want to make the move into turn 8. He's learned from last lap that that is not where you want to make the move. And we'll now go down to the hairpin. And he'll try and go all the way around the outside. Keep an eye on Kuba Tresniak as well. This is right now the battle for 8th position in the race. And Tyus Korsman was trying to attack Julian, but he might get overtaken by Kuba. And they're both going to be pushing on. Down towards the chicane we'll go. They both have DRS as Krajic's gets ahead. Up ahead of Jane Tripkov. We are still battling for P8, and still it belongs to Julian. And Kuba moves up to 9th, but surely he's going to be attacking down towards turn number 1. And Julian's going to be under pressure. Kuba will go to the outside. Can he outbrake his rival into the first turn? How brave is he going to be all the way around the outside? Bit of contact, and to the inside goes Keanu Littard as well, trying to take advantage there. Tyus Korsman on the outside line, and Littard found a little gap to the inside. Wasn't able to do anything with it though. He is in 11th.
We saw what Tias was doing there. He saw that the 2 men in front of him were fighting quite harshly for the position, so he wanted to take the turn 2 a little bit wider, the second of the Senna S's, and then sneak it down the inside and do a little bit of a cheeky Hamilton on Silverstone. But right there was Keanu Lito to close in on that gap, and that made sure that Tias could not go back and make the overtake happen. But we see Julian is starting to struggle a little bit with his tires. He's having a little bit of wheel spin on exits of several corners, including the hairpin last lap. So we do have to see how well he does with that. I also had that at the exit of the Wall of Champions. So if that happens again, he's going to lose more and more positions. Look at that. He's already getting overtaken almost by TS Korsman. He is going to get the better line here. And with Julian being a little bit out of place there, he might just lose it into turn 1. As TS Korsman really comes closer, wants to go for the outside, because that means the next turn he'll be on the inside. But there is no space there, and a better line by Julian. And now immediately TS under pressure by Keanu Lito. He's on the outside, but there's no way for him to get past. So a lot of exciting fights happening for P8. Even though further up ahead, all the drivers still within DRS range, in the gap between Felipe and Jonah only being half a second. So the fight really is close there, but nothing really that has sparked our eye just yet. The midfield battles being really key here at the race for now.
Korsman low on ERS, that's why when he had the overspeed on Julian, but he didn't have it for too long, and he was passed very, very quickly there. Down to the braking zone we go once again then, back on the power towards the chicane. Let's see if Korsman finally can make the move. Tristan Debecourt has been able to get past Jane Tripkov, who was overtaken by Krajic's earlier on. Now he's been overtaken by Tristan, and it might even be Keanu Lito to make the overtake, because Tyus Korsman doesn't have the speed in a straight line to try get through, but Littard not with the best of exits there. So it seems like we're going to be in formation as we come over the line, and still the order is maintained in this battle. But look how close all of them are right now. This battle from 8th downwards all the way down to 17th, including everyone but one driver at the back. That is Boris, who's had plenty of spins, so it's not going his way at all. And then the second train the main train and the first train that we've got. Not in terms of action right now though, because they're all sitting behind. However, this is the main battle. This is the battle for the lead of this race, and it's going to get more exciting. Just like we saw in Austria, it was a midfield delivering for the majority of it near the end. But then when you get to the business end, that's when you start to see the action. However, I think this race could be slightly different because of the rain. I think we're going to be seeing either we're going to be moving to the wets, depending on how quickly it comes in. If it starts coming in now, then we could be moving to the wets. If not, then it could be something completely different. So who knows how this one's going to end? We could get a wet last lap, we could get a wet last few laps. So who knows? This is about to get really, really interesting as Jonas Martins gets onto the back of Felipe Sousa, but of course not making the move.
Yeah, not making the move just yet, as we see the track getting darker and darker with just 10 laps to go. We've seen the drivers in the Discord chat talk about weather before and what that would mean for their tire choice, and it looks like most of the drivers have said, like, okay, if it does go out for rain, it will likely be inter territory and we won't be going onto the full wet compound, just like they rarely would do in the real world, although that has more to do with the compounds than with anything else. Of course, in the game, that is all okay. We are still focused and zoomed in on the fight for P9 because Julian is unable to keep up with Kuba, does stay within DRS range, so that allows him to at least keep the guy behind him at bay. But Tias is getting closer again. He was a little bit further away last lap, but look at that. It slides. Braking too late for Julian, but the exit is still good enough to stay ahead of Tias. And yeah, with both the drivers still having DRS, there's not too much for Julian to worry about just yet. But we're going to see more and more back and forth between these drivers in the coming laps until it either starts to rain or until Kuba starts to pull away just a little bit more.
Absolutely, but right now, Korsman not with enough. He's starting to charge it up, but not with enough to have an attack on Julian down the back straight. And of course, Julian, which you can just about see on the steering wheel, is also charging it up as well. They're basically both on equal right now, so they're both charging the ERS up, sitting behind Kuba and running at Kuba's pace. But we've got two different trains, as we mentioned. This is the one for the lead, and we are mostly riding on board with drivers, but that's also going to be the best indication as Boris picks up a 3-second penalty. That's also going to be our best indication as well. Do remember, we get to see some drops coming in, and that's the easiest way to tell when you get the first few drops and when it's time to get excited. And it could be any second that the rain drops start to fall. So this is going to be interesting stuff then. Lap number 26. We are making our way into the final stages of this one. Still don't know who's going to win. Still don't know what the weather's going to do. And still don't know how this one is going to finish overall then. So we're going to be in for some finish to the Canadian Grand Prix. We make our way through the final corner and go on to lap number 27.
Yeah, we see that Jonas Martins is starting to get closer and closer to Felipe. I think Jonah has managed to save his tires just a couple percent extra compared to Felipe. But indeed, as you mentioned, Omi, the weather, it really looks like it's about to start raining. So we should see raindrops any moment from now. As Tias Korsman has picked up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. I think it might be a good idea to quickly go over the penalties so you guys have a bit of an idea of which drivers all have penalties, because 6 drivers in total have penalties. Boris Zakosek's got 6 seconds to his name. The other 5 drivers all having 3, being Daniel Gottschalk, Tomas Kokeni, Noel Carmen, Tias Korsman, and Julian 28.
Interesting stuff then. So penalties not affecting the top 8 right now in this one, but outside of that, it's all going to change around, and that's provisionally. You still have the steward results, and drivers, if they want to report anything, that will all go on as well. And I think I saw a drop. There we go. It might be coming in the rain. And yes, here we go then. The rain is starting to fall here in Canada. We expected the rain to come at the end of this race. We were riding on board with the drivers on purpose to see when the rain is starting to come. Now the drops are starting to fall. This race is about to get really exciting in the final few stages.
And now it's also going to be key to see which driver can do the best in these changing conditions, as I have a lovely shot at the back of the Red Bull onto the Ferrari of Jonas Martins. That is great to see as Felipe is sliding a little bit at the end of Sector 1, heading into the left-right-hander. Starting to get under more and more pressure. We see the gap starting to appear, But look at that. Jonah Martins all over the back of Felipe Sosa. He has a little bit of a slide there through the Pont de la Concorde, but he's using a little bit of ERS to try and get closer to him. It looks like Jonah has a little bit of pace advantage over Felipe, and with ERS and DRS going to be activated now, I think Jonah wants to go for the overtake here because he knows that DRS is going to disappear very shortly, and he is going to go with a move. Race lead now taken by Jonah Martins. As further down the grid, the gaps are still staying intact, although I do expect Keanu Lito, Noel Carmen start to make some moves up ahead, as Julian28 is also getting closer to Cooper Tresiak, and here comes Keanu Lito onto... Oh, Noel Carmen has gone into the pits. He's gone for a very early pit stop, but this could be key, because if this is the perfect moment to go for the intermediates, he could get quite a few positions gained, as Linus Donovan also comes in.
Who knows?
Is this the right moment or not?
Who knows how this race is going to end? Jonah Martins knows that DRS will be disabled very soon, so he had to make the move. But look at Felipe Salazar. Can he try and come back? It'll be much more harder when the DRS disappears to make the move in the rain while also battling the conditions and possibly staying out on the circuit. This could be very interesting. Are the drivers going to come in, or are they going to risk it and stay out there? I'm sure we're going to get someone possibly who risks it. If you are not having a good race, then you might want to risk it out there, or even let's see how the drivers do this, because they might all decide to stay out, or they might all decide to come in. It could go either way, but now we're about to get another change for the lead. Felipe Salazar pulls out, gets very close to the wall on the outside there, but moves through into the pit lane, and Jonah Martins almost gets through into the pit lane. But they're all diving it into the pit lane, but Alan Banasak, who for two reasons, possibly he wants to stay out, but also didn't want to double stack with his teammate there.
And it looks like Noel Carmen and Linus Donovan have triggered the pit stop sequence. There's still no sign of DRS being disabled, so the move not being there just yet, as the track might still be good enough. But we see Noel Carmen, I think he lost a little bit of time there still. So I don't think he's actually made up positions. No, look at that. Noel Carmen has come up the grid quite a bit. He's gained a few positions. So he did stop at the moment. This was the moment for everyone to come in. So that means for Tias Korsman, Tristan Debicor, Alan Banasak, it's going to be a lap too late that they do come in. The rain now really is starting to pour down. And it looks like the driver has done best this sequence.
Whoa, round goes Noel Coleman, almost losing the car. They're battling with Julian, so to cut across the mid there. But Noel Coleman almost spinning the car and losing out and dropping down the order.
Almost missed that action, but thankfully you were able to catch it, Omi, as Luca Wolso has gone past Julian28 because of that happening. The other drivers now should come into the pits, and indeed, there come Alan Banasak and Tristan Debicor. There's no way you're going to stay out now. You have to finish the race onto the intermediate compound. But as I mentioned, the driver that has done best so far is Felipe Sosa. He did let Jonah overtake him. Did go with the overtake once again, and in the pit lane managed to keep that lead just safe and sound for him. And now with all the shuffles happening, we see the real results. The real standings as they are for now, as Alan Banasak has dropped down the order just a little bit, but actually does stay in front of Kryzik. So has lost a bit of time, but not all too much. Just lost about a second and a half onto Zach Miles. That is all. So damage, almost losing the car there. But not too much damage being done there. The gap that is super tight, though, is no Carmen onto Thomas Boldra, and we might see an overtake happen there in a moment.
So, DRS is still enabled right now, and that is why Jonah Martins is pushing Felipe Salazar through. So, could this be the move that wins him the Grand Prix? On lap number 31, he is tucked onto the back and is even going to pull out of the slipstream and go for the move round the outside. Is he going to get the car slowed down? Is there going to be contact between the two of them? That was so close. Noel Coleman has picked up a penalty. His teammate is battling with Felipe Salazar. Right now, as we make our way onto the straight, DRS4, Jonah Martins, it is absolutely hammering it down. As you can see from the camera, we've still got DRS though. And Jonah Martins gets his way through. Can Kryzik gets past? Alan Banasak, is he going to get the one slowed down? Yep, he will. But Zach Miles not able to stay close and make that move. back because Felipe Salza did not have DRS onto the straight, and we still have DRS in these terrible conditions right now as well. That's Tristan Debecourt up against Alan Banasak, trying to go all the way around the outside. And is he going to be able to get a position? Many cars dropping down the order. We've had Keanu Leetard, who has had a few issues there, and it's all starting to kick off as he's got a 5-second penalty. Might retire here. He's going to retire in the pit lane. All starting to kick off at the end of the Canadian Grand Prix, and still the lead is in the balance. Still the lead's in the balance. Still, as we show you, the DRS is still opening, and that means that it's still not over, and we're still battling like crazy in this one. And Felipe Salza is surely gonna have another chance to come back then and try and take this lead. He'll be late on the brakes. Is he gonna go down the outside this time? It was very close to contact. One lap ago. This lap, though, he takes a different racing line. Tries to get on the power and will try and challenge Yona Martins down to the braking zone. Keep an eye on Zach Miles in this one as well. But Felipe Salza is going to pull out of the slipstream. He will go to the inside, being squeezed a bit by Yona Martins. And Felipe Salza, though, is able to get through and retake the lead and also pull away as Yona Martins does not have a good exit. That will leave him vulnerable to Zach Miles, trying to go round the outside into turn 1. And Zach Miles gets ahead and gets a little bit of a tap by Yona Martins, and they were lucky to be able to get away with that.
Yeah, now DRS finally gets disabled, I think a lot later than most of the drivers were anticipating on. But this move by Zach Miles is great news for Felipe Salza, as Noel Carman has retired from this session, and that looks to be a pit entry as well, so there won't be any safety car of any sorts. Will be too late for that anyways. But yeah, the DRS being disabled so late, now that Zach Miles has gone ahead, Felipe has got a little bit of a buffer. He's got 9/10 ahead. Kreisig gets another 3-second time penalty for track limits, but it's starting to look good for Felipe in order for him to win the race. So, as we predicted indeed, if the race does turn to wet, we were expecting Felipe to win the race, and as he comes across the line now in a moment, there will be 2 more laps that he has to hang on to it. But also, great race by both Kreisig and Tristan Debecourt, and after penalties, Tristan Debecourt will move up to 5th. So great race from him so far, but it's far from over.
Tristan Debecourt and Alan Banasak, first of all squeezing each other all the way into the wall, then almost colliding into the chicane, and now we're about to battle into turn 1. Neither of these drivers will be happy with each other, and Alan Banasak will stay ahead, running a bit wide, but that was super close to a huge accident there.
Super close there, as they also keep it close through the first 2 corners. But looks like Tristan has a little bit of overspeed here in these tricky conditions over Alan Manesic, the second Red Bull driver. But this is the gap that is closest so far. Also Julian 28, Thomas Boldrat not being too far away from one another. But this is a very important fight. Let's see if Tristan can make a move happen in a moment.
Let's see if Tristan Debecourt can try and find a way through in the Sauber colours, of course, up against the Red Bull of Alan Banasak. It seems like the top 4 are going to be in position, but Kreisig does have a penalty. We'll actually put that on for you as well to show you how much does everyone have. But Kreisig with a penalty, he's going to drop down the order. So this battle is going to be for 4th position. And let's see if Tristan Debecourt can try get ahead. He has a bit of ERS. He's saving it up till the end. Zach Miles is putting a bit of pressure on Felipe Salza, but he will need a major mistake. And Alan Banasak not with the best of exits. And Tristan Debecourt will make his way onto the start-finish straight. Onto the final lap of the race we go. And the Sauber driver moves through under braking, but trying to come back round the outside to the inside for Alan Banasak to hold 5th position. Great stuff by the Red Bull driver there, but still there'll be an opportunity for Tristan Debecourt to try and come back as we will go on to the back straight. So that will be interesting to see if he's going to be able to try and fight back. You're going to have Jane Tripkov up against Kuba as well on this final lap of this race, but it is going to be Felipe Salza who is going to be taking victory. Zach Miles will be in 2nd, and it will be Yona Martins who will be in 3rd position as well. So we're going to be making our way through with the battle still for P5 as Alan Banasak is all out of shape, and Tristan Debecourt is going to try and make the move. Is he going to be able to dive to the inside? Is he going to wait for the straight? It seems like he's going to wait for the straight, and Yona Martins has been caught by Kreisig. He is going to be given a penalty though, and now Tristan Debecourt puts foot to the floor, and it could be a drag race to the line, and he's going to try and make the move round the outside. Alan Banasak running out of ERS, so it seems like the Sauer driver will be moving through. We'll have to cover that as they'll come over the line. Felipe Sousa for the third time this season will get to the line first. Felipe Sousa wins here in Canada. Zach Miles takes his first podium of the season, and it's the first time that Jonas Martins will stand on the podium when he's not finished in first. It'll be Tristan Debecourt who was able to beat Alan Banasak to the line, and he'll take fourth, and it'll be Alan Banasak who finishes in fifth. What an ending that was in the wet conditions.
Yeah, so much action happening between Tristan Debecourt and Alan Banasak. That was a great fight to cover in the last few laps of the race, and it was Tristan Debecourt who did get the better exit out of the hairpin, forced Alan in a different line, and that meant he had a better exit, had more speed to take onto the back straight, and did go for the overtake there just before the Wall of Champions and made it stick. But overall, great race by Felipe. Went for an offset strategy, was almost ruined by the safety car, but when the rain came in, he did go for the intermediates on the right lap and did have the better pace there. And as soon as Zach Miles and Jonas Martins started fighting a little bit, Jonah also dropped down the order a little bit. So great race by Felipe. Also by Zach Miles picking up his first podium of the season. But for me, man of the race really is Tristan Debecourt, who picks up P4 here tonight. Great job by him.
Incredible stuff then. So great stuff there throughout that race, but the incredible thing, I think, has to be with how long we had the DRS enabled as well, and then Felipe Sousa able to pull away exactly at the right at the crucial moment there. He was able to pull away. We'll be able to confirm the full race results for you then, and then we'll ask the top three whether they would like interviews. It would be definitely great to speak with them. So I'm just going to ask them if they would like an interview, and if yes, then we'll be able to get them in and have a word with them. So that will be definitely really fun to see. And Zach Miles has said yes to an interview, so we'll quickly confirm the full race result for you, and then we'll be able to hopefully speak to Zach Miles as well. So Felipe Sousa ended up as the winner. Zach Miles finished in second, Jonas Martins in third, Tristan Debecourt in fourth, Alan Banasak both putting on a show at the end, and so did Tristan Debecourt, 4th and 5th. And as you mentioned, great drive from Tristan Debecourt from 14th on the grid to 4th. Kryzek finished in 6th, losing out due to the penalty at the end. Jane Tripkov in 7th, Kuba in 8th, Luca Wolstow in 9th, Tyus Korsman finishing in 10th, Thomas Bulldor, then Julian, Thomas Konkenny, Daniel Gottschalk, Linus Donovan, Boris, Noel Carlman, Keanu Leetard, who retired along with Nardi Perez, Anima Lundell, and Noel Carlman also retiring in the final stages. That, though, was an absolutely incredible race there.
It was a great race indeed, and I really loved that fight at the end, as I mentioned before. Tristan Debecourt, Alan Banasak, but great work by Tristan Debecourt. So far in the season, only had 1 point to his name, is going to add 8 points to that, so we'll move up into 9 points in total. But looks like we have the man in P2 this race joining us here in the commentary box, Zach Miles.
Hi guys.
Good evening, Zach. Well, let's first go back to Quali. How was Quali?
Quali was tricky. It's a very sort of hard track to pull a lap together with all the blind corners and tricky cuts, but we managed to do a decent last lap, which was good for P4, which I was pleased with. I think as long as you're in the top 5, you can make something good out of it.
All right, and then, after, when we were waiting for the lobby restart, we saw what the weather was going to be like. We knew there was going to be rain at the end. Did that cause any concerns for you?
Yeah, rain always scares me, and the worst bit is we were planning to do a soft medium and accidentally readied up on the hards. So that was tricky, but hard seemed to be a good call in the end. So, yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, in the end, we did have a fairly early safety car. Did that ruin your strategy at all?
I think me and Yona swapping every lap, we probably would have caught up to Felipe, and it might have worked, it might not have worked, but at the end of the day, we still came out P3 on the even tyres, so it wasn't too big a sort of swing.
And then finally, I mean, you were in P3 for most of the race, but towards the end, you got a chance to overtake Jonas Martins in the Ferrari, and you were able to make that move stick. How was that fight with Jonah?
Yeah, I was on more of a wet setup all race, sort of hoping I could cling on and then make some positions up at the end with maybe a safety car or something. So I sort of sat behind them on my sort of wetter setup, and then when it started raining, I thought I had a bit more pace. And I saw Yona and Felipe fighting quite hard. I had a full battery, and I just took my opportunity.
And that is also your first podium here of the season. How excited are you with that?
Yeah, I'm very pleased. It's a good result.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Zach Miles. Let's move on to the man who finished in P3, but who did have a very, very great final qualifying run. Jona Martens.
Good afternoon.
Well, let's first go back to quali, because for quite some time it wasn't looking like anyone was really going to be able to contest Felipe, because anytime that anyone came close to Felipe, he just pulled away by 2/10s. But I think your final corner going through the wall of champions, that really nailed pole position for you, didn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, in quali, I didn't have too much practice this week. Been quite busy with the Ferrari guys preparing, so I wasn't really expecting too much. And when I saw that Felipe lap, I was like, that's never gonna beat that. But then I had a decent sector 1, a decent middle sector, and a good hairpin. And then I saw my delta was only 80 thousandths up, and because I was the last car on track, I like 1 or 2 that could still. And luckily, I nailed the chicane. I don't think I've ever nailed the chicane that hard in my 3 sessions of practice. But yeah, that was a really good last sector. Especially the last corner, I was really happy with that. So because I went full brain, even if I'm validated, I think I would have still been P2. So that's why the last corner was so good. Full send.
Yeah, we saw the same thing in the commentary box. We saw that there indeed were no really other drivers contesting you for P2, so we thought that you were going to go full send, and indeed, you confirming it here. Going full send and full sending you onto pole position. But of course, when the race started, you were starting on the hards, and Felipe right next to you started on the softs. Did that worry you a little bit?
Well, initially not really, because I knew the hards would get back to it, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but at the end of the stint right before the safety car came out, I was catching towards half a second a lap. And I would have called him probably right at his pit stop, because I think he would have pit lap 15-ish, which is the normal soft medium. But it became an issue the moment I realized I put too little fuel, because I put a bit more wing on the car, because I thought it was going to rain, so I put a bit more wing on the car, which helped in the rain in the end, but because of that I had way too little fuel. And I was scared I was not going to make it to the end, so I had to let Zach by and sit behind him for quite a few laps to save some fuel. And then after the drop-off, I just was like, let's just send it. There's going to be a safety car anyway, I hope. But yeah, the soft medium was a good strategy, but on your own, I think it's a bit sketchy, because at the end, my mediums would have been a lot faster. But who knows how it would have played out, because Felipe was really fast today. I could not match his race pace, so GG to him in the first place, because he was just way too quick. Even when I was sat behind him, he put me to like 7.5 tenths every lap, which is way too much for my likings, so I hope that's better for next race.
Yeah, we saw you have a couple good fights with Felipe, and also, of course, with Zach Miles, who we've interviewed just before. But one thing that caught our eye, at least on the stream, was the DRS disappearing fairly late. Was that something that you noticed as well?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons that I did not get a P1 or 2. I think Felipe would have probably topped me in the end anyway, because I had the chance to overtake Felipe in the middle sector. I risked it that it was gonna stay out for one more straight, the DRS, because it was already fully inter. The track was super wet, and I expected the DRS to go out even before I overtook Felipe. But then luckily I got past. But then for some reason it stayed out, and then I had a really bad final corner. Felipe got past me. That wasn't the issue, because he was gonna beat me anyway. But then I had a really bad final corner, and because the DRS was still there, Zach also got past, which in the end, I'm not too happy with that. That I didn't finish P2. Obviously, as a driver, you always want to finish the highest possible. But yeah, I think I can be happy with a podium, considering I came into the session thinking I was going to be like 15th in quali. So yeah, I think I can be happy with a podium.
Yeah, now with the results that we've seen so far, we've had 5 rounds. There's still 6 rounds to go, but starting to look like a championship fight is starting to emerge between you and Felipe. With the track still to go, what are your looks on the championship fight between you and Felipe?
I hope we can have a good fight for how long it lasts. I am gonna miss at least one race in the end of March. I can't remember exactly which one. And then depending after that, I might have to miss a few more races. So I'm not really looking at the championship for now because I know that I'm probably gonna miss like 4 or 5 races towards the end. For a reason that I unfortunately can't say yet. But yeah, I'm looking forward to race as much as I can still, and when I can, and at least try and race for wins against Felipe, who's done an exceptional job so far, who should probably walk away with the championship already. He's quite far ahead of P3, I think, if you take me away. So yeah, I hope we have a good fight while it lasts.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your interview, Jonah. Then let's go straight on to our race winner for tonight, picking up his 3rd race win of the season, his 4th podium as well. Our race winner, Felipe Sosa.
Hello, mate. Hello. Yeah, thanks. It was a pretty awesome race, actually. Yeah, like it was just perfect for me, actually.
I mean, your qualifying was going pretty on point as well. You're the first driver to break through the 109 barrier. Then when the drivers were starting to get close, you pulled away a couple of tenths again. And then once again, you pulled away 2 further tenths. But at the end, it was still Jonah pipping you to pole position. What were your thoughts heading into qualifying, though? Did you think you were going to be on the front row?
Actually, in practice, I mean, everyone's pretty fast. Everyone was doing like 0.6, 0.7s. And we actually thought the pole would be a 0.7. But when I came into qualifying, I was super confident on my setup and everything else, as I've done in the last rounds. And then, yeah, my first lap was pretty good one, 0.9 and then a 0.8, I think. And then a 0.6 in the end, which I thought would be pulled, but then Jonah was pretty fast, especially in the last sector. I think he was like 2 times faster just in the last one. So yeah, GG's to him on the pole lap. But yeah, I mean, front row actually, like top 5 is pretty okay. Yeah, to fight for the victory.
Yeah, and then for the race, you chose for an offset strategy compared to Jonah Martins. You started on the soft compound. You're immediately able to pull away a little bit, so take over race lead, and then pull a gap of about 3.5 seconds before that started to decrease a little bit. Then came the safety car around lap 10. Did that ruin your strategy at all, or did it sort of work out for you?
Well, I know the softs are pretty quick around Canada, and then I was hoping for the other guys to start on hards, and then it happened. So I knew I just had to take the lead into turn 1, and then I was leading the race by, I think, 4 seconds maybe, around that. So when I was leading, I knew my tires wouldn't be that fast after like 8, 7, and yeah, it happened as well. So Jonah started to catch me, as he said. So I was just trying to stay on track, actually, because when I saw that he was catching me, I was planning to stop maybe like 11, like 12, just so I don't lose much time. But I really wanted to start on the softs because I would go on the mediums and make an undercut. Obviously, it wouldn't be very easy to overtake all the other guys because they were in a train, so it's really, really hard to overtake in a train. But I would try my best, and I think the safety car actually helped me. Obviously, I lost my lead, my gap in the lead, but then I was still leading, so it was just about a DRS battle, to be honest. So until the rain starts.
Yeah, and then the rain did start. You all came in for intermediates. You still held the lead. You had a little bit of a fight back and forth with Jonah. When the rain came out, were you comfortable driving in the rain?
Yeah, I made some changes on the setup, like more ring, etc., just to make sure it's stable in the race, because I've done a few races here in Canada and it has rained, and I was pretty slow because I was lighting too much, and then I made sure the setup is really stable. And yeah, it was quite understeery sometimes, especially with worn tires. But yeah, I knew it would rain, and the race would be decided there if there wasn't any safety car before. And yeah, I was just prepared for the rain. I think the last few laps are the most important of the race.
All right, and then if we look at the championship standings now, after 5 rounds, if the results stay as they are, you would gain 6 points onto Jonah, which means that your gap would increase to 18 points, which is just over a race win. But the championship fight is really starting to look like a battle between you and Jonah, although we heard from Jonah that he might have to miss a couple of races later on in the season. But that would put you on an almost certain path to victory when it comes to the PSGL PCF4 title. Are you thinking about the title already yet, or you trying to suppress that feeling for the time to come?
I mean, there are still 6 races to go, and we never know when we're gonna miss one. So yeah, I might miss 1 or 2, I don't know. But yeah, it's all planned to race every race, but we never know. It can happen. So yeah, it's important to build a gap at the start of the championship, so I can just be more comfortable going to the races, not under pressure. And yeah, I think there are many great tracks for everyone actually. Like I don't really like France, but I like Netherlands and Brazil, obviously. So yeah, I'm gonna make my best to be at least in the top 3 in the next races.
Well, as it looks like right now, it could not be more ideal than to claim the championship on your home track, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it would be perfect actually.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the interview, Felipe, as well. Omi, any questions from you going out to any of the guys?
Nope, not at all, but well done to all 3 of them, and great to see you again, Felipe Salazar. I was expecting to see you again today after we recorded the previous interview, because Felipe Salazar is performing absolutely brilliantly this season as well. So great to have... great to see Felipe Salazar taking another victory, but definitely wasn't an easy one for him, and has been in the top 5 in every single race this season as well, as he finished P4 in Austria. So we've done Australia, we've done Belgium, we've done Monaco and Austria and Canada today as well. Now we head to France, and then it will be Portugal, Azerbaijan, Netherlands, Brazil and Texas. Mitt, out of those tracks, which one are you looking forward to the most?
Well, for me, it's certainly got to be my home track at Zandvoort, which I'll be able to give you some key insights on. Although, I think the race in Portugal is also going to be good. I always like seeing Brazil. To be honest, I like pretty much all the tracks, perhaps aside from the race that we're going to have next week in France. Although, with the DRS zones in France, I think the fighting is still going to be interesting. But track layout-wise, the final 5 races are all good. But the one that stands out for me the most is going to be Zandvoort. What about you?
All of them. Pretty simple, every single one of them, because I'm sure we're going to get plenty of action in all of them. But, Mitz, what is your final words for this stream and everyone watching after we've completed the first 5 races of the season?
Well, we're now almost halfway through, and it looks like our championship fight is going to narrow down to 2 racers, Felipe Sosa and Jonah Martins. We've, of course, just heard from both of them as they were in the commentary box, both of the drivers finishing on podium as well. So I hope we can see a lot more fights between the drivers, and it would be very, very cool to see that championship decided later on. And if that happens in favor of Felipe, I really hope for him that he can clinch it in round 10 when we go to Interlagos.
Absolutely as well. Would definitely be spectacular for him if he was able to clinch it there as well. But I want to say big thanks to everyone for watching. Big thanks, of course, to our lovely sponsors at SRC. You can take a look at all of that stuff as well. They have a lot of stuff coming up for F1 24 when it comes to setups and all that. So do keep an eye also on that. And, of course, our lovely sponsors at GT Omega as well. You have, of course, next to me their lovely GT Omega chair, which you guys can also get, and a lot of other products as well. I saw they also got some gloves out, which a lot of people have loved, so maybe you might as well. And when you do purchase anything like that, please do use the code PSGL at checkout to get a 5% discount. But from us then, it has been another fantastic week of racing here in PSGL. We will see you in France next week when PSGL returns. Goodbye.
right-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets all the power nicely, and that is job done. You're now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the second. He returns.